Good evening. You're watching Philly Live. I'm your host, Ashok, your international connection. Tonight, teaching goodness, educating global citizens. We often hear complaints that our educational system is falling short of what it should be, that many students are not truly engaged in the learning process, that current educational practices often turn many off, and that students are not reaching their full potential. At the same time, an increasing number of educational pioneers see the need for a deep shift in how we approach education. They seek a more integral approach that engages and educates the whole child to prepare youth to appreciate and negotiate differences across cultures and worlds in preparing for global citizenship. They also hold that awakening moral awareness from earliest years should be woven into the life in the classroom. Tonight, we're delighted to have with us a truly gifted, creative teacher for whom teaching is both a passion and a living art. Dr. Usha Balamore, author of Teaching Goodness, teaches kindergarten at Episcopal Academy in Marion and at the University of Pennsylvania. Leaving behind a career as school psychologist and college professor, Usha decided to teach young children because of her belief that many problems of later years can be prevented by engaging children's moral and academic potential in early years. Usha, welcome to Philly Live.
Thank you, Ashok.
Pleasure to have you with us.
It's wonderful to be here.
Now, that's an amazing thing to give up a professor position to go teach kindergarten. Say more about that. What moved you to do that?
Well, I had been teaching at Swarthmore College, training teachers for many years. And it came to a point when they were offering me the next 4-year contract. And they kept looking at me and saying, we're offering you this great thing, and yet you seem like not too thrilled with it, because everything in my heart was, having been a school psychologist, having trained teachers, I knew that you could really impact children's life by being a teacher who was also a psychologist. Because as a psychologist, I could only see kids for like an hour and then make all these judgments. But as a teacher, if I knew what I was looking at through the psychologist's eyes, through the theoretical eyes of a college professor as well, with learning theory at my fingertips, what we could accomplish and what we could prevent that takes so long to untangle in later years. And so I thought, I have to go try this.
We tend to be prejudiced so that when you go into higher levels of education, high school and college and university, you're doing more important work. But for you, it's really very important.
For me, I think the child, because this is our future, and we're laying the foundations at this very early age. And if we do it great, it's not what I can teach them as far as numbers or writing. It's really if I can get them to feel we can do anything. You know, I can be an artist, I can be a musician, I can be an author. If they feel that when they're young, and they're going to do it. They shouldn't do it because I'm there supervising them, but they should love it.
And if they get shut down at the early age, that could affect whatever
absolutely,
happens.
then what's the point?
We have a lot of beautiful show and tell.
That's right, absolutely here.
I'd like to help our viewers get a sense of the magic that you do in your classroom. How do you, I mean, so many students, young kids are disengaged and disheartened and turned off. You bring out the opposite. So how do you do that? How do you get them so engaged?
Well, for us, that was for years my question. How can I hook them on day one? How am I going to get them right away? And so after trying a lot of different things, we decided that we need to hook them even before they come into class on the first day. So even before they come on the very first day, I try to create something in my room that will get them on day one. And then, like for example, we created a huge figure of the peacemaker. Once we figured out our theme was going to be peace that particular year, we created a huge Native American, the peacemaker from the Iroquois tribe that you see in that picture. And then what we did was we wrote a letter to the kids saying, putting up a photograph of my assistant and me, saying, we're going to welcome you on day one, but guess what? There's this amazing person who showed up.
This is before they even
before
come for
they
the first
come,
day.
we sent a letter a week before they come to
Right.
generate excitement at home. And also gets parents involved, because parents see this letter and have to read it to the kids. And they say, here is this person waiting with a message for you. And his message to them, which we hid amongst his clothes. So day one they come in, there's no time for them to feel nervous, afraid. They want to know, who is this person? They go bounding up to the character,
Right.
and they start looking for the note,
Right.
which is hidden. So all the critical thinking you want gets started right there. They start asking, can we read his letter? Will it be in a different language? These are kids who don't know each other, hardly know me, but they're right there thinking from
Right.
that
so
moment.
this activates him completely
Right away.
into the topic.
Right away.
Right, and because in this case, this peacemaker is an Iroquois,
And
figure.
different. They want to know why.
Yeah.
Why did he come here?
Yeah.
How far did he travel? We look up the map. There's geography. He came from here. What does his letter say? And into the letter, that first letter, we put in everything we want to teach. There's geography there. It's an interactive letter. He would say something like, do you know where I come from? They make guesses. And he says, well, this is where I'm from. Do you know where this is? We locate it on the map. Then he says, do you know why I'm here? They make their guesses.
Yeah.
Then he says, well, this was my purpose. And he entrusted us with the mission that year to study and how we could become peacemakers in our own lives.
So this stays all through
all
the
year.
This,
And it is the overarching concept.
right.
A
so this
moral
hook is,
principle.
Yes, the hook is very important.
That's
isn't
right.
it?
Because if you have a moral principle as the umbrella, everything fits under it, and and then you don't have to make classroom rules. You don't. That year it was, okay, if we are peacemakers and peacekeepers, then what's the most peaceful way to get from here to gym? And so they would walk peacefully.
So this
Everything.
pervades everything that's going on in the
How
classroom.
can we have a peaceful lunch? How can we have peace at home with brothers and sisters? And that it's better, because what you find is if you make rules, everyone's going to try and dodge the rules. And then it becomes a set of do's and don'ts with
Right.
no reasoning. But if you have a higher principle, then that's a glorious way.
Yes.
And they can understand. Then we imagine, what would our classroom be like if we didn't try to be peaceful?
Right.
And envision that. And they see the difference. So they have to understand why it's important.
It's amazing. So the hook really is. Let me just remind
Yeah.
our viewers
Yes.
at home that you're watching Feel Live. I'm Ashok Gangadeen, your international connection. Tonight we're focusing on Usha Balamore's book, wonderful book, Teaching Goodness. And we're looking at how she really educates the whole child and really gets him involved in how ethics and morality runs through all of the teaching. If you're a teacher and you have some thoughts about how to improve the teaching atmosphere in the classroom and you would like to call us, our number, we're having trouble with some graphics tonight, our number is 877-879-9923. I'll repeat that, 877-879-9923. Pick up the phone. We'd love to hear from you. If you're a parent and you're concerned about the level of engagement of your child in the classroom too, this is a great time to call and speak to Dr. Usha Balamore. Usha, say more about this moral principle. Are you saying that moral consciousness is not an add-on to the educational process or the curriculum, but it goes all the way through?
That's right.
I'd like to hear more
Because
about
my PhD research was in moral decision making. And all of the reading I read, one of the things I realized was that when you advocate it to schools or even businesses, they think it's a little thing that we can talk about in isolation, but it's not, because all of human relationships, all of the curriculum is so rich with places for dialogue.
Right.
And one of the things that baffled me was when we realized that when they reach the teen ages, that when you posed with a dilemma, some kids didn't even see it as a moral dilemma. They walk through life and things that we would look at and think, here's a place to make a decision. They didn't even see it. And so if they were not even seeing it, then I thought we have to step back. We have to say, where do we begin this process? How do we make kids realize, hey, this is a moment where I have a responsibility. I have to make a decision.
Right.
So I had to go even further back. But then I realized that the reinforcement systems within our culture, we do not reinforce goodness. Where in an assembly do we ever just invite a good person to talk. We invite a sports figure, we invite a celebrity, we invite someone who's done something.
Right.
But we don't just invite people who've done something good day after day. And so I realized we need to get all of that into what we're teaching young kids. From here on, and so that's where my thinking started. And that's how we realized that you can't teach it separate. It's got to be all pervasive throughout the curriculum.
Now, it's clear from what I gather from the book and my knowledge of your teaching that the child is a very central being, a special being in your classroom. The atmosphere is very important.
That's right.
Are you saying that children are naturally moral beings?
Well, in my experience, in my belief, I think absolutely yes. They are, because there is a saying, and I can't remember quite who said this, but the saying is that sometimes we misperceive ourselves as human beings having a little spiritual experience. But truly, we are spiritual beings now having a human experience. And if you see the kid as that, a kid as a sacred little person who has to be respected, whose goodness is innate, and all we're doing is nourish it. So I had a lot of problems with this title, Teaching Goodness,
yes.
because for me, they come good, and we create an atmosphere where that goodness can grow and develop in harmony.
Yes.
Because really, if something is off, then it's because something has happened in the child's life that has taken that away. And the child has had to move in a different direction,
right.
Become schemy, become devious. But if we create an atmosphere where we are not judging them harshly,
right.
where they have room to explore, and it's not seen as the kid is a bad kid, then they will open up, discuss, and we have glorious conversations because I don't talk down to them.
Right.
And that's one of the crucial things, is you can have great conversations about very deep moral concepts with young children.
Even at that age, kindergarten.
Oh, it's amazing. Yes. They are my teachers. Once they are more idealistic than anybody, and they see it, and they all often point me in the right direction. Like even the year we were doing the Peacekeeper, and our notions of peace had expanded, and we had discussed it. At the end of the year, we were doing a pretend trip to India, and I gave every kid, I showed them the world map and gave them a pointer, and they could find their own route from Philadelphia to India.
This is a pretend, imaginary trip.
Yeah. So, but they thought they were going for real for a while, so they were planning their actual route. And some of the kids wanted to go through areas where there are, we knew were dangerous and there were wars being fought. And so I said to the kids, think about it, discuss it with your parents. I'm not too sure that we should stop over in those
so they're gonna
areas.
Learn geography.
Oh, tons of it, because everyone chooses a different route. So two of the kids came back the next day and said, we discussed it with our parents, and we think we should stop over there, because aren't we peacekeepers? We should stop there and bring peace to those lands.
I see. So the theme of peace, the hook, was playing out.
Not only that, but the fact that they believed they could be peacemakers.
They felt empowered.
They did. And that for me was so joyous that they could think that way.
Right. Well, you're in good company, because Socrates, Plato believed
that's
that
right. That's exactly
is
right.
Innate in us, and
that's
we have to remember it and bring it out through the education process. So remind our viewers again, our graphic is not up with a phone number, but we'd love to hear from you. Our phone number is 877-879-9923. And we're here with Usha Balamore and talking about teaching goodness in the classroom and how to get the whole child involved and inspired in the classroom. So please pick up the phone and join our conversation. Say more about this. I'd like to get a sense of the integral aspect, because in your book, they're aspirations, integral,
integrated
and
curriculum.
Collaborative.
That's right.
And I'd like to go through that a little bit. And so talk about...
Well, when we talk about integrated, for example, one year we chose the theme of heroes, because in moral development, there's all of these discussions about how this generation of kids looks upon celebrities as heroes, and then wants to be like them. And really, a lot of the celebrities, what they're modeling isn't what we want the kids. So we decided that we would truly study heroes. And so when we started Heroes, the initial kids' definitions was someone who knows karate, who can save a princess, slay a dragon, all the stuff, even at 5. So we let them brainstorm that, and slowly then we began. And you can't do this fast. We took the whole semester to brainstorm, look at different things. We had rating scales for every book we read, and we said, who's the hero in this book? Why is he a hero? Oh, and then it's in your questioning that you guide them to deeper levels of thinking. So a fireman is a hero. That's interesting. A doctor is a hero. Well, is he a hero if he's doing it just to get a lot of money? Is he a hero? You know, you open it up. You have to think. You have to analyze. So after we did a whole bunch, and they finally got the notion of, is it better to do something good every day, like be a soup kitchen worker, than to be a knight and save one princess? And we'll debate that for as long as it takes.
Right, so they're getting into values, issues of values.
So once we did all of that, our summary, because we had also looked at heroes depicted in art, and then we had gone off into Rodin and all of these different Michelangelo. Then we decided, after visiting the Rodin Museum, to make our own museum. And part of our own museum, a collaborative effort, was all the kids making this one picture to represent all that we had learned. And basically we learned that there's no one virtue that makes a hero. It can be gentleness at one time, bravery at another time, you know.
And they come up with this themselves.
And we had listed every attribute. But then also, you know, they're 5.5 years old, and they were saying things like kind, good, over and over. So I took out a thesaurus and showed them how we could expand each of those. And so we came up with lists of words, which you see here. Is we have words like confident, lion-hearted, valiant. And so we wrote all these words, and kids represented little faces to make a giant face that is neither male or female. This is a hero of 1,000 faces that represents all the virtues.
So in this way, they're learning the concept of what a hero is.
And vocabulary is expanding. Before we made this, they'd estimated how many faces they thought could fit in. So that was a math activity. So there's a lot of every subject going into this theme, but they don't even know that it's math or that it's separate. Because it has purpose and meaning. And that's what drives them.
We have a first caller, Ineka from Swarthmore. Welcome to Philly Live, Ineka.
Yes, hi, Dr. Ashok. How are you?
How are you?
Well, I'm listening to your program, which is very fascinating. And I was just curious about the author, the doctor's work, and I'm going to pick up her book later on. But what is her position on the role of culture? Teaching goodness is one thing, but also teaching cultural affirmations to students in the classroom.
Right. That's a very good question. Thank you very much. So, you know, if we talk about global citizenship and crossing cultures. You spoke of the peacemaker, Iroquois. Already you're dealing with cultural issues.
No, but we also, even there, we looked at peacemakers around the world. Like, who else? We asked parents to send in books. Who do you think? Maybe there's someone in your family. Maybe there's someone in your heritage that you could come. We always, because we have a little part in this book that's called Mining Parents. We think that there's such a wealth of, there are resources that, and really it makes for personal meaning if you get someone who was their grandparent or someone they knew who did something. And so that, no matter what topic we use, we stretch it out into the culture. Like when we did artists from A to Z, for each letter of the alphabet we studied an artist, we made sure that we went across. And we went to, even to a babysitter who was an artist. So it's real people, as far as people from long ago. So we always expand that way.
Part of Ineka's question about culture is that often happen, you can teach a culture from the outside, or you can help people go into it.
Absolutely.
Do you
well, what we do is, if I have a kid from a different culture and the parent's willing to go with me, because I am very worried about teaching a different culture, lest I fall into the trap of stereotypes. So, when we do it, we go 3 months into a culture, because it takes time for the kids to live and breathe the texture of that culture. And I have to have plenty of real material to teach it. Food, everything. But it's not just that. It's also why. The question why. Because for me, I did a lot of research in prejudice reduction. And prejudice reduction doesn't come from just teaching food, clothing, etc., which is how diversity is usually taught. You have to learn to teach kids to ask why. Prejudice is prejudging. If we want to keep them from prejudging, we have to teach them to ask the why question. So I always tell them this anecdote of how I ate, when I saw spaghetti for the first time in this country, I thought blood and guts, yuck. And I wasn't going to eat it. And then how I was persuaded to take a taste. I realized I shouldn't judge. I should take a taste, try it at least once. And I loved it. And I give them that example. So when I introduce them to India, when we do India, we study it in great detail. We ask, first, the way we go into a culture is we look at the world map and we do a pretend. If I took a vacation here and my assistant took a vacation somewhere else, how would we plan for our vacations? I'm in a cold place. I'm going to need warm clothing. I'm near a lake. I might eat a lot of fish. You know, so even without culture, you show that just because of the geography, we are going to live different lifestyles for a week. Now, what if we lived there? We're going to do these things more. So they understand that geography determines what we wear, the kind of houses we live in, and clothing, etc. Unless they have that, until we do that for a long time, we don't plunge into a culture. Then when we go into a culture, like India, for example, you can see this incredible piece over here, was one of the things one of our children made.
One of the kids did that?
One of the children made this at the end of our India studies. And her sister made that, by the way, which was of a Italian soccer player. But we like to leave things like this in the house long after so that they remember what we taught them. But when we studied it, we said, if we go to India, and India lies between the Tropic of Cancer and the equator in that region, then what would the climate be like? They already know it. So how do you think they're going to dress? What do you think they're going to need? Lots of suntan lotion, lots of, whatever. So we brainstorm first. Then we say, let's go see if that's really the way. Let's see if it is. So they've done a lot of thinking, generating ideas to understand the culture. Why do you think they do this? Why do you think they have temples of this kind? Always with the why. And if you don't know, we tell them, if you meet someone on the street and you don't like their clothing, talk to them. Ask, why do you wear that?
So that they get a tolerance and openness to differences.
And learning to ask why is what I would like to leave them
Sylvia's with us.
Yes.
Hi, Sylvia.
Hi.
Welcome to Philly Live.
Thank you. I know that the doctor is talking about young kids at this time, but I'm really concerned about what happens at the middle school and high school level, and what things can be done at that level with kids. I watch what's going on in the high schools and middle schools, and just think, well, what kinds of things can be done to really help kids at that level.
Thanks, Sylvia, very much. So as you go to more advanced levels.
Sylvia, when I was at Swarthmore, my main job was training teachers for middle and high school. So the methods are no different. Quite frankly, if you have this book and you look at the methodology, there is no difference. If the main point is to give kids a purpose for learning a topic. Instead of just saying, today we're going to study about Greek mythology, why would a kid need to study that?
Again, the hook is
You have to create a hook. And even last year, there was a brand new teacher in the Radnor High School, a child I had known since she was very little, who now became a teacher, and it was her first year of teaching. And she had to create curriculum for international studies for honors classes in high school. And we worked together for a year. I was on sabbatical writing this book, so we worked together every weekend. And we created hooks for every lesson she taught for high school. Even when they had to go into study Africa, we made each one a Peace Corps volunteer, even before they started, just like our hook, even before they began. So from the beginning, they had a purpose. They were looking for a place they could go, a problem or an issue they could solve.
That's part of the aspirational dimension that's important for you.
If you create purpose, then kids begin to see life as meaningful, purposeful, not just sitting and studying a bunch of facts, wondering what's the right answer for the question, when is the midterm exam, when is the paper due. No, this is meaningful. And it all culminates at the end where they had to do a presentation. Just like we pack our luggage for our India trip and have to make lists, they packed luggage and said, as a Peace Corps volunteer going into this place, I would need this because this is the climate, this is the mosquitoes in this area that I would need to protect myself from, these are the shots. this is the issue, these are my talents. It empowers them. They have to tell us why they are particularly suited to meet this challenge. And that gives purpose. You can do it for anything. Creating hooks is my greatest joy. When I train teachers, that's my greatest thing, to sit with them and say, what is a powerful hook? You get so excited as a teacher. You're not teaching the same thing. Each year you create a different hook. You get excited, you're animated, then they're animated.
Right, now Peter's with us from
Yes.
Chestnut Hill. Hi, Peter. Welcome to Philly Live.
Thank you. Dr. Balamore, I'd like to know if you can teach goodness absent a religious structure, especially since so many religions have been associated with such great violence and destruction over the years.
Yes, Peter, thanks you. That's an excellent question.
Yes, I think so, because I think that's absolutely right. Because when I was doing my PhD research, I read a lot of the works of Thomas Licona, who actually researched in schools and said that, yes, one thing we can all agree on, and he wanted to call his book Bringing the Fourth and Fifth R Back into Education, which is respect and responsibility, because respect is the passive side of morality, and responsibility is the active side of morality. And he says no one's going to disagree with us trying to teach respect and responsibility. And that becomes the umbrella under which all of the other virtues fit in. Right. No one's going to say, don't teach a kid to be honest. These are things that each school can decide upon, and that's what I use. One year we used peace as our overarching theme. One year we used respect and responsibility. Last year we used love. This year, because of all the wars in the world, I kept saying, what would be the best theme to use under which to teach? And I thought the best thing I can do this year to keep our little class like a lively, active oasis that is to really study the wonder of being human. Right. So everything we study, the hands, the way our hands are designed, how we can help with our hands, the wonderfully good things every human being across the world can do with their hands. Right. We studied Rodin, who used hands for the cathedral sculpture. Right. And then we made our own sculpture, which you see over here.
When you say we, do you mean the kids?
The kids made, each one made a sculpture. After we studied how our hands, we have so many joints that enable us to hug a child, lift something for someone else.
So through art you're learning anatomy.
And through art we study anatomy, which is science. We also learn, and we're very grateful, and then we sit in silence and we say, all around the world people have hands like this. How awesome.
Right. So even cross cultures with that.
You go across the world and you celebrate the human and the wonder.
Well, thank you for teaching goodness, Usha, and congratulations on your wonderful book.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching Philly Live. For more information on tonight's show and to get a copy, go to our website at WYBE.org. And tomorrow night, join Deborah for a discussion of Gays with Guns. For Philly Live, I'm Ashok Angadine. Happy New Year and have a wonderful evening.